everyone, good morning. How are you guys feeling? I always get one answer, so let me try that again. Are you guys feeling? Thank you. And I hope you didn't have too much of a big breakfast, because we're about to travel. So some health and safety. When we travel through realities, you might get some motion sickness. We cannot guarantee all the limbs are going to make it to the other side, but we'll start slow. So this session, we're going to visit, we chose 3 realities that we can go to in some not so distant future. And the idea is that we wanted some more positive, some more negative, some more weird versions so that we can see what the future looks like in all of these different alternate realities. So please, keep your hands within your chair. That's going to help us not lose a lot of limbs. Hold on to your children. And we'll start with a small jump. Are we ready for this? Yes, so much excitement. I think we need more coffee. Also, I do appreciate that it's a bit odd that we are doing all of this traveling without drugs involved, but promise you it's going to be just as weird, hopefully. So, let's do our first jump. We're going to go to a future not too far in 2040. Please, round of applause so the machine works better.
Whoa, hi. I was actually at AIUK 2025 15 years ago, and I was asked to give some predictions about the future, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see how those things worked out. My first prediction was children born in 2025 will never learn to drive. Well, I think you'll all agree that that's happened, right? Since do you remember the time when all the streets in our cities were littered with parked cars? Big lumps of metal outside every house, spending 99% of their time doing nothing. Capital lying there unused. What I didn't predict then was the further enormous change in our urban landscape. Some young academics I knew in the 20s bought a house on a busy arterial road in Cambridge because it was the one they could afford. Today, the stream of electric traffic can be single lane. The bike lanes are wider, and Cambridge has just started planting trees down the centre of these arterial roads. Their house is now fantastic. There's a great front garden. They don't have to see the neighbours. It's more like being on the edge of town than in the middle of a busy city. Of course, some people do have cars, just as some people have horses. And you see them tootling around in their little cars that they love to drive. But because 99% of the rest of the cars are safe and careful, they're safe and careful too. It's fine. Another prediction is I said AI will help us do better science. And of course, I was kind of thinking, AI helped drug discovery, AI guided materials, that sort of thing that we were thinking about. Well, I didn't realize it was actually, would help us with the general practice of science itself. When I was a young scientist, I would have an idea, I'd work on it, and then I'd be worried about being scooped because, my idea would be the same as somebody else's. I didn't know how to search for an idea, I didn't know how to develop an idea. I couldn't research the whole literature. Of course, nowadays, the AI helps, reviews my paper as I write it. The AI ensures that the ideas I have are novel and useful. And then when I'm reading other people's papers, I get the difference between what I know and what's written there. So it allows us humans to be faster at doing science. I think what has been interesting is how bad we were at predicting which things AI would be good at and which things would need human assistance. Obviously, from the very start, it was a surprise. Nobody thought that training a mathematical model to predict the next word, given some previous, 1,000 or 10,000 words, nobody thought that would simulate intelligent thought. It was I would have confidently told you, with my knowledge of mathematics, statistics, I would have used arguments from Brownian motion, that, maybe the first 100 words would be, intelligible, but guarantee you after 1,000 words would be gibberish. Even 100 words was being generous. I was using a sort of a square root argument. I was saying, well, maybe it won't diverge as fast as Brownian motion would because, there'll be... But I was wrong. It turned out that it could generate streams and streams of tokens, and those tokens made sense. But we still persuaded ourselves that it would be impossible for AI to do some things, to tell a joke, to write poetry, or to play the game of Go. Actually, games were a funny example, because those games, checkers, chess, Go, were games that we humans had invented so we could poke each other and find out which of us was cleverer. And every time the AI beat us at these games that we designed to test which of us was cleverer, we said, oh, well, that's not really intelligence. You'll all remember the time in 2033 when Goldbach's conjecture finally went down. So Goldbach, 8 is 5 plus 3, 24 is 19 plus 5, every even number is the sum of two primes. And it was hard work. But it wasn't the AI that did it. It was the AI-human collaboration. We didn't just say, hit go, think about Goldbach for as long as you like. We worked together with AIs in order to generate this. I hear there's some hope of the book proof of Fermat sometime soon. So hopefully before the end of my life, we'll see that. It would be an amazing thing to see. Of course, back in 2025, I was in my 50s. Now I'm in my 70s, pretty much as healthy as I was in my 50s with the impact that AI has had on medicine. The move to universal basic income has meant that my retirement is really just a mix of hobby academic activities. And the one I really like, I spend a lot of my summers driving a tractor, picking fruit. I do the tricky, the AI drives the tractor, shows me where the good fruit is. I do the tricky bits with my hands because for some reason we haven't really got that manipulation working yet. And it's useful. I love doing it, and it's useful. It puts food on the table for all of you mid-career folks who are focused more on invention, science, engineering, art, and entertainment. Obviously, the world we live in now is rather different to that of 15 years ago. Plus 4C happened a lot sooner than anyone predicted. But of course, as with COVID, humans turned out to be essentially societal and resilient. Perhaps it was the hideous self-interest encouraged by the Trump years that showed us how the 5% of society who are assholes can be contained by the 95% who are not. But getting there required us all to be nicer. AI even helped us to be nicer. Remember when AI generated images, allowed us to tell lies to each other much more convincingly. But the effect didn't last long, because we just come out of this weird century, the only century in history, where we believed we had a source of objective truth. Right? We had a phrase for it, the camera never lies. From about 1920 to 2020, we thought, I can show you a photograph of this thing, and now you will believe me. We abandoned testimony, right, the fundamental of our legal system for many decades. And we tried to outsource truth to an external source. Once we learned that we had to trust each other again, it became easier to be nice. And of course, AI-generated image allowed us to be nicer. Those of us who are terrible artists could now make a funny movie celebrating a friend's birthday, or, sadly, celebrating their funerals. We've had a few of those. So what did Trumpism? Well, remember what caused it. Nastiness and tribalism. And my tribe was guilty. We, the college-educated, were so sure we knew what was best that we were sure we were right. Our tribe, then, was growing really fast. 40% of Americans were college-educated in 2010. 55% in 2025. We knew we were right. But we spoke down to our fellow humans, snapped at them when they didn't know the codes we had developed for ourselves. And what did? They stormed the Capitol. It took a while. You remember the years that followed? It wasn't nice. It took a while for it to get really bad. I won't rehearse the early 30s again here. But here we are. Niceness is coming back. Let's continue the resurge of niceness. And hopefully, it'll be more than just 80 years until the next time we all need to pull together.
How are we feeling after this first jump? Yeah? Okay? It was quite positive. Quite nice. It was a good reality, right? Okay, so brace yourselves. We're about to jump a little bit more. This was just the first small jump into a new reality. Now we're going to have a bigger jump in time, and we are going to go to 2075.
Before I start, I'd like to explain that I worked on this presentation with the artist Janet Turrer, as well as using images from the Better Images of AI library, and you can find Janet So I think I might be on a delay. I think this clicker is still travelling through time. It's not. Oh, there we go. It's just very, very slow. It's catching up. Bear with me. So you can find the artist Janet Turra here. Anyway, so welcome to AIUK 2075. Well, of course, this is the underground AIUK, because in the real AIUK, a queer woman of colour would never be allowed to speak at the main stage. Our tech overlords would not allow that. Indeed, in the last 50 years, we've seen the horrific fallout from the concentration and convergence of power by tech companies and the autocrats they empower. We've seen a reduction in swathes of populations due to the impacts of floods, warming, war, ethnic cleansing, poverty and disease. Those of us left have been either living in feudal fiefdoms, which we were told would be utopias, or surviving as outlaws. But the catastrophic events for the masses led to the proliferation of new ideas and new movements. As the overlords got lazy, outsourcing their thinking and operations to machines, we got creative. And the underground split into 4 different communities or factions which all showed ingenuity and resilience. There were disagreements around beliefs as to whether the technology we're so dependent on yet so controlled by should either be seized and used for our own purposes or destroyed forever. But now we have come together, our planned uprising cannot fail. Our incredible new innovations have been sparked by the limitations and adversity we've been subject to, and we can now take over. And today, all of our 4 factions have gathered here together to rally for the uprising tomorrow, in which the inequitable era of techno-feudalism, of technocracy, will finally be ended and replaced with our new vision of techno-pluralism and lagom. Swedish, you look it up. Our tech overlords and dictators will be shocked, having thought that restricting access to compute would build them a moat so great to keep us compliant forever. Instead, we've realised that scarcity, sticking to our values, has only enabled us to be more innovative. Designing for the margins, for the most vulnerable, has helped us make incredible breakthroughs for all of us. Our human spirit and defiance have now created a powerful intervention, a tool which can counter and destruct their sloppy, mindless systems. We can therefore disable their systems of oppression and replace them with ones made from care, not cash. From tomorrow, we'll take control of all the infrastructure which has been so unevenly divided. But of course, we can't pretend it's been easy. It's taken 50 years since the first oligarchs seized power, dismantled democracy and started a regime of techno-fascism. To be honest, our ancestors were lambs to the slaughter, unaware of how they'd been manipulated by algorithms and deepfakes to turn on each other, and their unhealthy religious devotion to billionaires made them easy prey. They didn't ask why wealth inequality kept growing and why the digital platforms meant to bring connection and collaboration did the opposite. And before they knew it, they'd swapped their livelihoods for simulations. The era of AI proliferation and enshittification drowned them in, at best, mushed up replications to distract them, and at worst, fascist models of control. But at our most subjugated hour, we did what we humans do so well. We started to dream, to hope, to love. What if the future we'd been told was our destiny was not as inevitable as we'd been led to believe? The version of the future which turned out to be abundant only for some was not written in the stars. It was made by humans and enabled by human decisions. And now we can remake it, we said, this time from the ground up. AI might have been inescapable. It might have been unavoidable, but that did not make it inevitable. Indeed, nothing is inevitable unless we are all made to believe that it is. Things can be better. And while some of us passed into a phase of dreaming, others got practical, and we started to work towards an end to our serfdom or our exile, splitting into the resist faction, the outlaws, finding ways to live better by abnegating all tech and its control, the refuse faction, finding ways to circumvent different technologies and escape being seen and surveyed, the reimagine faction, dreaming how to reconstruct a more equitable future for all of us, the reclaim faction, finding ways to get tech systems to work for us. Then, at 2070's underground AIUK, we first agreed to pool our knowledge, our tactics and our technologies, those in serfdom and those in exile. We now celebrate finding a way to unify our approaches and explore the intersections. Reimagine. You showed us how to imagine the world we wanted to live in and how to think about what kind of systems, behaviours and technologies we'd need to build or support it. Refuse. You shared with us the techniques you'd been using to avoid being the subject to the systems of oppression, from sabotaging algorithms and hacking systems. Reclaim. You showed us how to take what was already ours from data-driven systems and use it to work for us, to use the tools of oppression for our own purposes, for public good defined by publics. Refuse and reclaim. Many of you had already been working within the overlords' tech empires, working from the inside to limit their reach and develop new ways to circumvent, and we thank you for joining with us who are fighting from the outside. Resist. You wanted us to focus on fighting the powerful systems and people in place, which had led to the techno-determinism which took over our lives. You had renounced any tools which had been built on the back of exploitation and extraction. Negotiations between Reclaim and Resist were hard. But at last we're satisfied that we can ensure no extraction or exploitation is tolerated going forwards. Our common ground of humanity has led us to agree that seeing each of us and our output as nothing but a data point and fodder for an algorithm was an ideology, not an inevitability. An ideology which was pushed forward by the most well-meaning of our politicians who grasped eagerly at shiny techno-solutionist approaches to solving what were actually austerity-related issues. If only we'd thought through in time how our eagerness to throw technology at human problems only papered over the problems while creating new ones. If only we'd listened to those who warned that endlessly chasing nothing but efficiency and productivity would just make the wealthy wealthier and leave everyone else in a frenetic race to the bottom. If only we'd realised that we would only really see the best from the wonderful potential of AI if we'd rejected the inevitable mechanisms which enslaved us to it. Instead, we ended up having to experiment in the noise and the shadows after our subjugation and struggle, and committed to learn from the mistakes of the past. Of course, the past was hard to decipher, as the pollution of our information ecosystem and replacement of education with edtech meant the historical fact was hard to identify. But in the end, emboldened by the realisation that the mystical AGI, which we were both promised and threatened with, remained nothing more than faster, bigger, and sometimes reliable computers and cash registers. We have now developed a new vision of technology and an economic system based on balance, values, minimalism, inclusion, and respect. Not on speed, cancerous, unrestricted growth, breaking things and profit at all costs. We'll replace solutions-based thinking with problems-based thinking. We'll build a new society where our problems and demands are addressed at the roots instead of hidden and controlled by technology. These are the foundations of building the intervention which tomorrow will use to sabotage the systems which measure, judge and divide us. So here's to regaining power tomorrow. May our factions become one even as our diversity and value pluralities multiply. So thanks to the artists who contributed, and for those that got the sci-fi reference, yes, sorry, I did spend way too long in the young adult section in the 2010s, not being a young adult. Thank you.
Whew, thank you so much. I don't know. I hope they can put back to the slide. That's okay. I'll let the. There we go. They got us back. So, how are you feeling? This one was not so happy, but there was some happier things. So hopefully we can continue the next one and our final jump. So we can then chill back in 2025. It's a year that is very dear to me. That reality, I'm either dead or 100. So, woo, that's excellent. So please, let's go and see our talk in 2093.
Hey everyone, I'm Lauren Beukes. I am thrilled to be opening the State of Connective Intelligence 2093. Is it too early to say that it feels like it's really shaping up to be a good year so far? I don't know, maybe it's spring in the air, spring vibes. I love seeing all of London's like vertical gardens in blossom, the chaos of greenery and the new buds, glimpses of sunlight bouncing off the cladding on the skyscrapers from the solar panels, and of course, that golden shimmer of the spore clouds drifting down from the proto-taxite towers. You can feel it, right? You can feel that potential. Things growing under the soil, waiting to burst out. You know what? That would have been a metaphor, like even 20 years ago. You can feel it. But of course, we actually can. Because thanks to the mycelium mesh that connects us all to each other and every living thing, not in a creepy hive mind way, where we've lost our individuality, thank God. Remember when connective intelligence used to be called artificial intelligence, and we were ready to sacrifice the whole damn planet to it? On the one hand, we had very useful data crunching technology that drove new discoveries in science and medicine. My favorite was that we learned that elephants called each other by name. On the other hand, we had plagiarism engines, making the most mediocre remixes of stolen art, or wildly hallucinating the wrong answers to basic bitch questions, using up water and electricity at the rate of small countries to feed some giant corporation's bottom line. Ancient history, I know, but we have to look back as well as forwards if we're going to do better. The British philosopher Mark Fisher had a theory of hauntology, which describes how our ideas of the future are haunted by nostalgia from the past. All the sci-fi from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and the billionaire bros taking the wrong lessons from it. With their penis rockets and their dreams of Mars colonies, flying cars, and robot butlers, / girlfriends, / baby incubators, and then also the singularity. Hauntology is what happened when we all got so stuck on those future visions of old that we couldn't imagine new ones. Or, as I like to say, those who cannot remember history are doomed to repeat it. Those who cannot imagine the future are doomed to fuck it up. It was a pretty bad time. 2010s, 2030s, almost 70 years ago now, I know. But keep in mind, it really felt like we were doomed. Oligarchs and tech bro oligarchs driving the rise of fascism and global temperatures, mass species die-offs, new pandemics, cowardly rollbacks on human rights, and the sloppy catch-all idea of AI, which included LLMs, predictive learning, data crunching and harvesting, surveillance, but also bots and deepfakes screaming conspiracies and propaganda online. But it also included the idea of artificial general intelligence, which was this idea of an inhuman other mind. And what a beautiful idea that was. Technology's failing me, sorry. And this dream of this inhuman mind that was more than us, better than us, alive in ways that we weren't, that could maybe even solve our problems for us, or kill us all, was pretty beguiling. But that yearning for a different consciousness came up from a very, very human place, which is loneliness. And I know that's a hard thing for us to relate to in 2093, when we are all connected through the mycelium mesh, which gives us access to this incredibly complex, rich ecosystem that includes other minds and life forms. It's a privilege. We're so deeply rooted, and it's incredible. But try to imagine how unbearable it was back in, 2025? Being alone. Being alone in your head was bad enough. But as far as we knew, we were also alone in the universe. Still waiting, aliens. Don't know when you're going to show up, but, any time now. So we looked to space, but we also looked to machines and tried to create our own intelligence. But what we lost sight of in all of that was our own humanity, because we didn't need a replacement, not to make art, not to think for us, not to keep us company. And we never needed to look anywhere else, to other planets, machines, because we are already surrounded by the most amazing inhuman intelligences, from octopi to ants to honeybees, viruses and slime mold, and mycelium, of course. The answer was right under our feet all along, just waiting for us to trip over it. Revolutions can be bloody. I'm glad ours was fungal. It was rough for a few decades, water wars, climate disasters, one after the other, relentless. But it really drove home that we're part of this incredibly fragile ecosystem. We're not, in fact, alone. And look, to be fair, AI wasn't all bad. People use the data crunching and predictive stuff to find better ways of organizing, resisting, coming together to form communities, to fight back, reinvent the idea of democracy that couldn't be undermined by capitalism. There's a lot of in-person, on-the-ground, human work. Ubuntu became the rallying cry, not the software, but the South African philosophy, which says a person is a person because of other people. We're also people because we are embodied, we are experiential. We're not digital minds in the cloud, but we're living, breathing, eating, shitting, thinking, loving animals on a planet rich with other species that do exactly the same thing. We are people not only connected to each other, but to the world, and that makes us human. Instead of trying to make a more human intelligence, so arrogant to think that we were the most evolved intelligence, the only one that we should be looking to for inspiration, we started looking at other intelligences, and especially interconnected ones, like the mycelium network in the soil that shares information and resources between trees and plants in the central nervous system of the planet. Which brought us here to connective intelligence. Look, I know some people are going to say it's still technically artificial intelligence because, we made it, a bit of fancy gene editing. We didn't just pluck the existing fungal network out of the ground and stick it in our heads or find a way to root ourselves in the soil like trees. The ice melt helped because we found the spores of the ancient tree-sized mushrooms, which used to cover Antarctica, the prototaxites, and we used those as the equivalent of cell phone towers. Fancy gene editing on fungi, our own neural receptors, we figured out how to launch those harmless golden spores as receptors and conductors. It's a very different take on cloud computing. And of course, we still use AI in the data analysis sense, the useful tool sense, to speed run through experiments and possibilities and crunch the numbers. And it would have taken us thousands of years if we hadn't have had that, so still some purpose. But when I say I can feel spring, you know what I mean, because you can feel it too. When you choose to plug into the different layers of the mycelium mesh. Maybe you're going earth deep, so you can feel those seeds full of potential about to burst. And all the ways mycelium is managing and sharing photosynthesis and resources and carbohydrate content. Or you're on the local human network, maybe in this room. Feeling what I feel, connecting to what other people in the room are feeling. Tapping into empathy and connection and ideas and the power and the wonder and the strangeness of other minds. And the nuance of empathy and understanding exactly what I mean. Maybe you're in your neighborhood checking on the elderly couple next door or the couple who've just had a baby, the unhoused person who's really struggling this month, and you can figure out how to redistribute and share resources. Or connecting with other people who share your hobbies and interests, the same way our ancestors used bulletin boards and Reddit, whatever it was called. It's pretty fun for human intimacy too, but that's a whole other talk. And oh my God, the arts. People are using the mesh to collaborate with whole other species. A dance performance inspired by pangolin mating rituals. A song written in collaboration with the Amanzimtoti River. A novel told with a cockroach colony. Okay, there's a limit to empathy, and mine turns out to be cockroaches. But we have new experts, interpreters of species, new kinds of anthropology and science and medical breakthroughs and understanding, and even tourism and games. My teenager loves to run around with the urban foxes, for example, mainly as a way of avoiding her chores. And we can all be part of that whenever we choose. And maybe you're not choosing to be part of that today because it's overwhelming. And sometimes we all need to be alone too. But even when we're alone, we're part of something greater. Do we still have problems? Oh my God, yes. People can still be assholes, even when you can understand where they're coming from. And cockroaches, viruses, tapeworm, flesh-eating bacteria. But that sense of community, of realizing how much we need each other and how we're part of this wild and strange and beautiful system with our wild and strange and beautiful minds, it's amazing. Connective intelligence means we can work together using all the tools we have, from artificial intelligence in the old sense to the mycelium mesh of today, and most importantly, our human connectedness to each other. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 2025. I hope you had a nice trip. I hope you enjoyed listening. But in all seriousness, now I'm going to introduce my panelists, which I'm so thankful that they took our challenge to do this. So first, we have Andrew Fitzgibbon, who is an engineering fellow at GraphCore. Big round of applause. Unless you lost your hands on the traveling, apologies for that. Then we have Tania Duarte, founder of We and AI and Better Images of AI. Big round of applause.
And finally, we have Lauren Beukes, author of Zoo City, winner of the Arthur C. Clarke Award, but also The Shining Girls, which is a show now on Apple TV. So an actual professional Imagine Futurist. So big round of applause. So I have two questions meshed into one to our panelists, but I'm also going to open to the audience. We don't have a lot of time for questions. We do have a poll that is going to go up. So if you go on Slido, there's a poll. There's going to be two questions, and we're going to see the results live. And the first question is, it should be showing there. My iPad just turned off on the second that I'm in. Okay, so which do you think is the most likely scenario out of the three? That's the first voting that you're going to do. And then there's the second question, yes. So just to say, technology, it's not just in the jumps. 2025 technology, 75 was not working, 93 was also struggling a bit. Maybe it's the fungus.
It is.
The new type of computer virus is a computer fungus. Okay, we start having. Okay, so the most likely so far, can you see it? Can you guys see it? Is Andrew's future.
You should weight it by distance.
Okay. And should we move on to the... No, I'll let some people ranking. I can see numbers going up. Because I think people online can also join the Slido. Are the votes going? Okay. And now let's go for the next question, which is, which one do you like that would happen?
That's one person.
Oh, Lauren, everyone wants to hear about the mating procedures of a mycelium mesh that we're all connected.
It's like ancient Antarctic mushrooms. I mean, who doesn't love that?
Tania, I'm disappointed people don't want to be in a revolution in an underground AIUK. So my first question, and I'm going to put them both together, is what inspired your vision? But also, what do you hope from your vision that actually comes through? I will start with Andrew. You've been sitting for the longest.
Sure. So a few things. Number one, I think cheap, clean taxis will change the world much more than online shopping or easier access to information. I use the weak anthropic principle. If we're still talking about it in 1940, that's a good thing because we're all here. In 2040. And I also used this grisly technique, which is I picked 15 years, 1935 to 1950, and thought, was the world better in 1950 than 1935? Probably a little bit. I mean, some of it wasn't.
There was something in the middle that kind of happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess really how quickly the world can change.
Yeah. Tania?
In terms of
what inspired you and what you hope is the one thing from your vision future that you would like?
So I usually resist doing future visioning because a lot of our work at We in AI is actually trying to help other people think about their own futures and understand AI enough to do that. So I usually don't want to give my own viewpoint. But I was kind of persuaded, I think, by just the amount of dystopia we've seen in the last, few 6 weeks or whatever it is. I kind of got off the fence a little bit. And at the same time, there's also been several strands of our work pulling together. One of which we work a lot with images, and I'd like to say one of my inspirations, I'm going to read out her bio because she's not here, but we did work together on some of the ideas. Janet Turrer, who's a photographer, ceramicist, and mixed media artist in East Cork, Ireland. And she says she's continually challenging the concept of perception and her art's take on many themes, and currently looking at perception of AI and how it relates to the female body. So she kind of worked on collage with me, trying to get another piece of our inspiration, which is a model we've pulled together to try and counter this narrative of inevitability. And I find it kind of really disempowers people if they just think that there's a really fast train, you've got to get on the train, this is where the train's going, you just got to get the skills to get on the train, just, your life would be better, as opposed to the kind of critical thinking of thinking, well, hang on a second, could we have a role in, where's the train going? How fast is it going? How safe is it? How many seats are on it? What happens if there aren't enough seats on it? Does it need to be a train? All of those. So we've pulled together a lot of research from other people. So when I talked about kind of reclaim, resist, refuse, and reimagine, it all comes from other people's work who've written loads on counter-governance or, refusing, algorithmic resistance. So there's loads of literature out there, and we pulled that together into a model. So that was one kind of inspiration as well. I think that's the kind of thing I'd like people to take from it, is that there are alternative ways to thinking. We may all think differently, but we should explore both the intersections and the different ways of thinking about things, and do it from the ground up. So the final inspiration was some work we did with Ada Lovelace Institute before Christmas, where they were asking the question. They're going to present this soon. I think it's not published yet. They did some public deliberation on AI and public good, where they first kind of defined public good, and only then we came in and talked to them about AI, and then kind of got to the AI bit afterwards, which is in real kind of contrast to what we often see, which is like, we have this hammer, where can we find the nails, where can we put technology and everything? But they very much started with like, what do we really want? So that was, what I'd take from that.
Thank you. And Lauren?
So I wanted to have the most optimistic future because I'm so pessimistic about where we are right now. Especially as a writer, I had 6 of my works harvested in the Books 3 database, which was used to train, it was OpenAI. Haven't seen a cent. This is my life's work. I spent my life's work like developing a voice, and they just freaking scraped that. I work in a studio space with artists and designers, and over the last year and a half, people's work has been drying up. They're being asked to fix AI stuff and being paid a pittance for it. We're looking at losing culture. We're looking at losing the thing which makes us the most human, so that companies can continue to profit from human work. And it also is creating the most homogenous and boring versions of art. And I think I was at the Pitt Museum in Oxford, which is this museum of anthropology, and one of my museum hacks is I ask the volunteers what their favorite thing is. And this woman was like, oh my God, let me show you. And she showed me this little statue. I would have walked straight past it. It was a Victorian, it was a statue of Queen Victoria sculpted by Yoruba artists at the time. It's done to Yoruba beauty standards, so in Nigeria. But they also understood that they only saw busts of her, so they thought that she was really short. So it's this funny, weird little Yoruba Queen Victoria with kind of very sharp features, very squat and small with little feet sticking out the bottom. And it's just so weird and cool. And I'm like, AI has been scraping, LLMs and generators have been scraping the most generic, most homogenous stuff defined by like mostly white tech bros in America. And we're missing out on this depth and richness of human culture. It'd be amazing if we could actually tap into all of that. We don't need more Marge Simpson with 3 tits in the style of Picasso. We need a Yoruba Queen Victoria, and we need like just the depth of human culture from across the world. And of course, I love fungi. I love Merlin Sheldrake's Entangled Life. And coming from South Africa, where we did get to reboot a whole country from scratch, we did get to stop and say, you know what? That system was broken. How can we make a brand new constitution? I'm very hopeful. I think we can change things. And I think we can stop and redesign.
Thank you so much for all your answers. This is an excellent segue because we don't have a lot of time for questions, so I'm trying to pull them together because we're having a lot of them. But there's a lot of questions about the fact that all of your futures were positive. So a bit of background is that when I talked and I was briefing our wonderful panelists, I said, I know you're going to tend to be negative. Can we have one of you be positive? Things were so grim that all of them wanted to have positive futures. So I'll just take this. The people are asking, can you say something positive short term? Because all of you went through the 20s being really grim, which is where we are. But also, how can we ensure that the positive of the futures is what happens? Which I think all of you touched a little bit on your things, but it has to be like one sentence from each of you. Okay, go first.
I'll start because I can be less than one sentence, which is just don't be complicit. So I'm sure there are many people here working in organisations. If you see something that you think is wrong, just build solidarity.
Thank you.
Question things, build community, and I think we can use the tools to drive activism, especially like data crunching and like numbers. And I know people use it to track femicides, for example.
Andrew?
Be nice. I would just like to clarify my earlier statement, 1950 was better than 1935. I mean, the future was better in 1950 than it was in 1935.
Thank you. So I like this question. It's a bit heavy. So I don't know if we have the time to expand on it. One of the questions is, do we foresee blowback from organized religion? There was a giggle. Someone likes that I picked this one.
I mean, if we start worshipping the AIs as gods, then maybe. But I think we mainly worship shareholders' bottom lines as God.
Yeah? No, do you want to add anything? No, it's okay. It's a heavy question, that one. Someone is complaining that none of your futures had flying cars. I kind of, that's okay.
I love that whenever you have flying cars, Tom Cruise is still driving it.
I'm trying to look at there's a comment that I cannot say out loud. Okay, this is a more serious one. The intersection of AI and misinformation in media is a threat to democracy and society. Is there a greater need for regulation to prevent the bad futures?
Oh my God, yes, completely.
That's a quick one. I need to pick quick questions, so yeah.
So is there a greater need for what?
Regulation.
Regulation.
To prevent the bad future.
Absolutely, and one of the things that I think I was trying to get across is that DeepSeek showed us that if you have scarcity, if you do have limitations, you can often be more creative. So the whole kind of innovation versus regulation false dichotomy, I don't buy at all. I kind of think that often it's the guardrails are not only necessary, that they force us to kind of work a bit harder.
I think by regulation implies government, and I think the question is, how does government look in 5, 10, 15 years?
This is an excellent segue, because the next question I was going to pick, it's just a number from you guys. What do you think is the percentage chance that we as a human race will even make it to your imagined future year? So 15 years, what do you think, Andrew?
100%. Not the same future, just that there will be some humans alive.
Yeah, that's the whole question, is like, will there be humans in 2040? What's the percentage of 2075?
I'm going to opt out of that question, only because it feels a little bit like the kind of P-doom thing of like the whole percentage of AI taking over. And I always look at those percentages and go, where did you pull that one from? So I'm not going to pull one, but I'm very optimistic that we will find a way.
I'm pretty bleak. I think what's happening in America right now is absolutely terrifying. The fact that we are erasing history, that we are losing human rights. I think right now is the moment that we have to stand up and fight really hard against all of this stuff. Otherwise, we are screwed, and it's going to affect everything from climate change to pogroms against queer and gay people, people of color, women. It's horrifying, and we need to stop it right now.
I am gonna completely echo that. Maybe I was thinking we will be around. I didn't say it was going to be pretty. And I think the whole thing about you mentioned about kind of climate change and the rest of it is like the graphs show that we will be underwater right here in near the river in not very long if things go on as they are. Never mind if we start using more energy, etc. And we can't overlook that. So yeah, I think we'll be here, but I think we may have to suck some stuff up, and let's do that now rather than wait till we get there.
Can we have an AI that tracks donations to political parties and ensures that we know exactly where the money is coming from and limits that?
So we're about to end. There's a lot of questions I'll share with you later at the back because we don't have time for them. So now, one last sentence that you want people to take home from you, or just one last message that you want to give today.
Let's use technology in a way that allows us to be richer, more exciting human beings and make arts and connect with each other.
Tania?
Yeah, let's dream of, let's dream of our own dreams of a better future and think about what role technology really plays in that.
And Andrew?
Yeah, I said be nice before, use AI to collaborate with each other and with whatever the machine can offer us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Can I ask for a big round of applause again for all of our panelists?